All right. Hello, everyone. So, I'm here to deliver a talk about what makes us human. But in my opinion, it's hard to come up to an answer to such a question without comparing ourselves to other animals. And even when we do, it's not immediately obvious what we have that makes us special. We're not physically the strongest. And you could make an argument to say that we're the most intelligent, but you can make an equally strong argument to say that we're the dumbest. And that kind of argument is for another day. But people have given that question a lot of thought, and they came up with the answer of stories. The idea that us being able to share information is what helped us blow our competition out of the water. We can see why that will be important if we look at our ancestors and how they survived in the wilderness. Picture yourselves in a savanna. There's a pool of water in the center, and there's a group of bison heading towards the water, trying to drink water. But there are predators nearby, the lions, the cheetahs, and the humans. The lions and cheetahs do pretty much what you'd expect in nature documentaries. They move around stealthily, and then when the time is right, they pounce and feast that day. Humans might have done the same thing, minus the but the end product would have differed just very slightly, because there would have been some form of discussion. They might have recognized strategies that they could have used to hunt better. They might have recognized that this particular group of bison hunts at this pool every morning. And not just the ability to see these patterns, but being able to share these patterns with the rest of the members of the community allowed us to become better. So I would agree, in a sense, that stories are essential to being human. But I feel like this picture is a bit incomplete. Because if sharing information makes something more human, then our smartphones and all of technology could be considered more human than us. Think about it. Hundreds of thousands of megabytes of data are sent per second across the internet. We, without tools, are not capable of that kind of communication. But that's ridiculous. Of course it is. You wouldn't think that machines would surpass us in being human. We created them. That's impossible. But we still fear that it might happen one day. Take a look at these 20 human attributes. These are all attributes that humans have. And if you read very closely, you might be able to tell that I sorted these into two different columns. The attributes on the left are ones that are considered to be shared with AI. Things like being able to recognize faces and use logic. That makes sense. And on the right side, the complement, are traits that are distinctive to humans. And that also makes sense, because you wouldn't expect a machine to be able to feel love or feel happy or show empathy. But when people are confronted with the advances of AI, and when people realize that AI is growing faster and faster than ever, that our machines are somehow overtaking us, those traits that are distinctive to humans seem to grow inside our heads. That perception change. It's kind of a fear. That fundamental fear, the idea that somehow machines will be able to beat us in being human of all things. And it's something so fundamental that I think will help to unlock the rest of the theory. Stories may be essential to being human, but there's something else. Let's see if we can refine it a bit more. Think about it. Every time an idea or invention has threatened who we are or who we think we are as humans, we either double down on the traits that make us separate, or we make a big fuss about it. Take a look at something like this. I mean, I'm a physics guy. I had to bring physics into this somehow. So, in the 1500s, people used to believe that the Earth was the center of the universe. This was called the geocentric model, because everything was centered around the Earth. Nowadays, we know that's not true. The Earth revolves around the sun. That model is called the heliocentric model because the sun is the center of it all. And the man who first proposed this theory was named Copernicus. He was an amazing scientist because not only did he see through the trends of evidence, but he was willing to challenge an observation that had stood as common sense for quite a long time. But when his findings were published, there was an incredible amount of backslash. The philosophers at the time and the church could not accept even the slightest chance that we were not the center of everything. The man who provided more evidence for this theory, you might know him. His name is Galileo. And upon revealing this evidence, he faced 3 trials in front of the Spanish Inquisition, and after a lot of trials and a lot of flowery language, he was forced to do a COVID and live in house arrest for the rest of his life. But here's a tiny question. Why was the reaction to a paper so strong? Anyone could understand that not only did the heliocentric model make some sense, but more importantly, it was just a theory. There was enough evidence to suggest that the geocentric model was equally correct at the time. And people weren't content with letting this theory stand. They wanted it gone. And that fundamental thing right there is pride. The pride in humanity, the pride that comes with being the most intelligent species, the most capable of telling stories, the most human. Great, so now I'm saying that what makes us human is ego and hubris. But it doesn't have to be that bad. Here's another example. This is a world map. We've all seen one at some point in our lives. It's a pretty ubiquitous tool and very useful. But the Earth is a sphere. So why do most world maps look like this and not like that? Think about it. Both maps show the same locations and the same distances between them, except this map is centered around Europe-ish, and this map was centered around China. And during that time in history, when civilizations tried to explore further beyond their own countries, the Europeans used this model, and the Chinese used this model. That same idea pops up again. The idea that if your identity is linked to being central to everything. Honestly, let's get a show of hands here. What model do you think resonates with you more? This one? Raise your hands. Or that one? A couple, actually. That's interesting. But that was a clear majority. We're all conditioned to see this map and not this one. One story, but not the other. And that's pride right there, and that is a little perplexing because we consider pride to be a negative. And to our ancestors, pride was almost certainly a negative in trying to survive. If you think back to that savannah, imagine 2 humans are facing off against a lion. Which human do you think survives? The one who respects the strength of the lion and decides to scurry away, or the human that's very proud and decides that I'm superior to a lion, I will beat him? Yeah, it's pretty obvious who survives there. But we survived. And I think the key word here is we. And that's where the stories part comes in. Even if individuals were too egotistical for their own good, it never mattered because we always had a community, someone else to rely on. Those 2 humans would not have run away or fight individually. They would have made a plan on the spot and fight together. And that mentality allowed us to mitigate those negatives of pride and focus on the benefits, the immense benefits that come with pride. Pride is essential. Pride is what drives every single innovator to create. Think about someone like Mark Zuckerberg. If you asked Mark Zuckerberg why he created Facebook or Meta or whatever he wants to call it now, and strip away all of the reasons that you'd expect him to give, things like money, fame, I wanted to do this to make the world a better place, all things you would expect him to say. But there's one fundamental reason that he himself did it, to be the guy that did it. Sure, he may have realized that the world would be a better place with a Facebook in it, but there's a certain pride that comes with noticing something that no one else has and putting in the hard work to make it a success. So, pride in stories. I think we've established that that's a pretty good theory to what makes us human. But there is a counterargument. Because we may think ourselves as very proud creatures. We're the center of everything, we're certainly above animals, but we don't think that we are the all-seeing gods of the universe. We look to religion for that. All religions, no matter which one you believe in, come with two fundamental promises. One, that there is at least one God who is all-seeing, all-powerful, and definitely superior to humans. And two, that there's a quest for eternal life. For years, we lived under the shadow of religion and God. When we wanted to know what our purpose was, religion gave us those answers by saying that when you die, you live on eternally. So if you're good in this life, you will enjoy benefits in the afterlife. But as modern technology has grown and all of those advancements have come to light, we're slowly becoming more and more powerful, but that power comes at a cost for meaning. Because we may be the most powerful Homo sapiens to ever exist, but our purpose feels more distant from us than ever. We have more and more excuses to feel less. And in my opinion, there's no better way to feel that purpose than with pride. And that's going to lead me to the final point I want to make today. And I'm going to sit down because I'm trying to have a heart-to-heart here. You may disagree with a lot of the things I've said today. Perhaps pride may be seen as more of a negative than a positive in your mind. And that's okay. But you cannot deny that our meaning and what we seek ourselves to be human is growing further and further away as we become more powerful. This event has proposed 4 wonderful theories, 4 wonderful ideas that propose how we could be better humans. Things like looking back on struggles and improving, looking at creativity and how that can help us, and then looking at how you can inspire yourself by looking deep within and conversing with yourself. All fantastic ideas. And you may decide that you have your own path to finding that truth. Maybe being human to you means being empathetic, or being human means achieving success. Whatever you may find the path to the truth to be, I assure you that not only will it end up making you human, but we'll end up being good humans. Thank you.